The Philippine National Police asks United Nations Special Rapporteur Agnes Callamard what approach does she recommend in addressing the country's drug problem. Callamard on Friday says a punitive approach to illegal drugs only worsens the problem. PNP spokesman Junardo Carlos asks the question, noting that there is a, quote, estimated 4 million people hooked on illegal drugs. Carlos defends the Duterte administration's drug policy, saying the PNP reaches out to drug offenders through Oplan Tokhang. He says, quote, the Philippine government, through its DOH and DSWD, extend all possible help to allow these drug addicts to be treated and rehabilitated either by community-based wellness and rehab programs or treatment in drug rehab facilities. This is just in a span of 8 months. Callamard, the UN's expert on summary executions, is in the country for an academic visit.
That many harms associated with drugs are not caused by drugs, but by the negative impact of badly thought out drug policies. And further, badly thought out, ill-conceived drug policies foster a regime of impunity, infecting the whole justice sector and reaching into societies, invigorating the rule of violence rather than the rule of law, eroding public trust in public institutions, breeding fear and leading people to despair. These have been well documented throughout the world. And let me be further clear. In none of the countries where the perverse consequences of ill-thought-out drug policies were reported, in none of those countries did the drug problem disappear.
She had previously been invited to make an official visit to the country to probe allegations of human rights violations, but this fell through after the government imposed conditions. A Pulse Asia survey shows public support for the reimposition of the death penalty waned in the first quarter of 2017, though a majority of Filipinos still favor it. Support for the death penalty dropped by 14 percentage points from 81% in July 2016 to 67% in March 2017. Those who opposed the death penalty rose to 25% in March from 11% in July 2016, while the undecided remained at 8%. Another Pulse Asia survey shows most Filipinos, or 55%, want to keep the minimum age of criminal liability at 15 years old. This sentiment is strongest in the rest of the zone at 63%, followed by Mindanao at 53%, and among socioeconomic classes, Class E at 58% and Class D at 55%. Survey results also show 20% of Filipinos favor lowering the minimum age of criminal liability to 12, while only 9% believe it should be 9. House Justice Committee Chairman Reynaldo Umali earlier said Congress is putting the measures on the reimposition of death penalty and lowering the age of criminal responsibility to the back burner, because the House of Representatives wants to focus on the impeachment complaints against President Rodrigo Duterte and Vice President Leni Robredo. Senator Antonio Trillanes says President Rodrigo Duterte could have prevailed upon his allies in the Commission on Appointments to confirm the appointment of Gina Lopez if he really wanted to keep her as his Environment Secretary. This after Duterte claimed lobby money funded the CA's rejection of Lopez. Trillanes, who is not a CA member, says, quote, I am not buying it. Duterte fed Gina Lopez to the lions. He also dares Duterte to prove his anti-mining stance by appointing a known anti-mining advocate as environment chief. Senator Panfilo Lacson, a CA member, takes exception to Duterte's allegation. Lacson reiterates he rejected Lopez as DENR secretary because he believed her to be unfit and unqualified for the position. The CA, after holding a secret vote on Lopez, rejected her appointment with a vote of 16-8. Half of the 8 votes for Lopez came from Liberal Party senators. Among those who voted against Lopez was Duterte's staunchest ally and defender in the Senate, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. 2 United States senators filed a bill restricting the export of certain weapons and equipment from the U.S. to the Philippine National Police as a consequence of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs. The proposed Philippines Human Rights Accountability and Counter-Narcotics Act of 2017 is filed by Democratic Senator Benjamin Cardin and Republican Senator Marco Rubio Thursday. The bill aims, quote, to restrict the exportation of certain defense articles to the Philippine National Police, to work with the Philippines to support civil society and a public health approach to substance abuse, to report on Chinese and other sources of narcotics to the Republic of the Philippines, and for other purposes. Cardin is a ranking member of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Cardin earlier said he was deeply disturbed by U.S. President Donald Trump's cavalier invitation to Duterte to visit the U.S. Rubio describes the war on drugs implemented by the PNP as deeply alarming. United States President Donald Trump wins a much-needed victory in Congress Thursday after Republicans narrowly pushed a bill through the House of Representatives repealing Obamacare. A vote of 217 to 213 highlights the concerns of many in the Republican Party who fear the bill could strip millions of Americans of their health coverage and send costs skyrocketing. The bill will almost certainly need substantial revisions if it is to pass the Senate, but Trump expresses optimism the controversial new measure will ultimately become law. Trump says, quote, "We're going to get this passed through the Senate. I feel so confident." An earlier version of the Republican plan collapsed in March when party moderates and conservatives refused to get on board, dealing Trump one of his most stinging setbacks since he took office.